ante nos in mundo fuere, vanitea sumeros, transineat inferos, ubiam fuere, ubiam fuere. Vita nostra brevis est, brevi finietur, vita nostra brevis est, brevi finietur.
Welcome. Welcome, friends, family, parents, members of the Board of Trustees, alumni, and students. I've been teaching, I think, for about 25 years, it may be longer. And each graduation is a real special occasion. Almost graduates, take a deep moment and a deep breath and exhale. I want to share a few remarks with you, but they're really directed at our graduates. The last 3 weeks I've been in India, Nepal, and back through India with a layover in China. Lots of traveling, lots of hot weather, and lots of time to think. And I keep on coming back to a few recent things that I've read. I want you in your lives to be uncomfortable. I want you to find quiet. I want you to connect. In order to connect, I want you to disconnect. Uncomfortable, quiet, connect, and disconnect. So much is on your plate right now as you look forward. What are you going to study? Is college going to be hard? Are you going to have friends? What do you do after college? Is it okay to study what you want? What's the difference between studying what you want and what you need? I don't have answers to any of those questions. But I believe you do. And the trick is living your life in a way that you can be open to finding those answers. Uncomfortable. Why do we go to the mountains? Why do we hike up, I don't know, 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000 stone steps? Why do we walk the Camino with swollen feet, sleep on hard ground, be cold and uncomfortable? I think we do it because it helps focus our mind. It helps simplify things. And I think as we do it, we find quiet. And each decade, each year, there's more noise. There's more noise in our lives. When I was a kid, and I say that, and my kids go, "Oh God, really, Dad?" But it's true, we had a lot less noise. And now there's so much to distract us, and it's so hard to find that quiet. Those last 3 weeks, most travelers had no access to what I call devices. And I think it was hard for about 2 hours. And then after that, people played cards, you hung out, you journaled, you drew, you spent time together, and you also spent time just being quiet. And that let you connect with each other. Your biggest question that you have, whether you know it or not yet, your biggest question, I do believe, is you're looking for meaning in your life. I don't know what that is, but in connecting with others, you will find that meaning. The challenge is you have to disconnect so that you can connect with others. I've been reading a book lately, two. One is called Deep Work, and the other comes out of the MIT Media Lab. And both of them are talking about the same thing, the importance of stepping away so that you can find out your passions and achieve what you want to achieve. My advice for you is along the way, along the next 4 years and beyond, take those moments and pause. And maybe it's through travel. It's certainly an easy way to do it. But step away from the entertainment, the instant entertainment on your devices, as hard as that is. Where's your phone, Dee? You left it inside, didn't you? Nice. Go out there and get lost. Don't turn on your GPS. Get lost so you have to ask directions. Get lost so you don't know where you are. And that you just have yourself and in that quiet of trying to find your way. I asked a graduate, I think he graduated about 8 years ago. His mom's on the stage behind me. We were emailing this morning. And I asked him if he had any wise, sage advice. And he said, no, I don't. And then promptly, I think gave me something that I want to share with you. Explore the practice of reimagining yourself. When you travel to new places and meet new people, your personality is not beholden to your history. It is defined by how you act from this moment forward. Think carefully about who you want to be, and by your conscious choices, you will become this person. The only thing that holds you back is your self-image, and only you have the power to change it. That comes from Peter Duggins, 8 years ago. And I want to then paraphrase some words from Ted Hope that he taught me a number of years ago. And if any of you have been in trouble and have been in my office, which some of you have, not all, I inevitably shared this phrase, was, okay, you've messed up, you've made a mistake. Mistakes happen, and small ones are good ones. Big ones less so. But don't let your mistakes define you. Learn from them, move on, and let your successes define who you are and who you want to be. Thank you.
So, class of 2017, I didn't get around to teaching this to you at any point, but I wanted to introduce you to Van Halen. Towards the end of the last century, they were a heavy metal rock band that toured the world, filling stadiums and arenas with tens of thousands of adoring fans, who were willing to spend big money to bathe in the glory that was their particular brand of high energy, synthesizer-rich, snare drum-infused awesomeness. There were tight pants and acid-wash denim vests and sported stringy shoulder-length hair as they jumped, karate kicked, and swung from trapezes on stage. And they personified the sex, drugs, and rock and roll ethos of the era. They were a big deal. If you don't believe me, I encourage you to search YouTube for videos of such chart-topping hits as Ice Cream Man, Panama, Running with the Devil, and I can't believe I'm going to bring this one up at a high school graduation, but Hot for Teacher. In fitting with their image as pampered and pretty creative geniuses, they famously included decadent and bizarrely detailed demands in the contracts that they wrote with tour promoters for each of the arenas that they visited. And they were legendary for trashing dressing rooms and even canceling entire concerts when they discovered that their requests had not been fulfilled. The most famous among these was the stipulation that a giant bowl of M&M candies be available in their dressing room, with every single brown M&M removed. Next one, Jeff. So, is there another one in there? No, that's good.
No, you got that?
There, that's the one, yeah. That's the actual contract, the little red line there. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, M&M's, and an underlined warning, absolutely no brown ones. What nobody understood at the time was that Van Halen wasn't only a rock and roll band, they were a business. They were a traveling circus made up of carpenters, electricians, sound and lighting engineers, security personnel, truck drivers, food service providers, and musicians themselves. And when they arrived in each new city, in a matter of hours, they needed to unpack, construct, and test the thousands of pounds of staging, lighting, and sound equipment that traveled with them. It was a symphony of logistics that they performed every single week when they were on tour. Their equipment was so massive and complicated that the tour contract spelled out, line by line, the structural and electrical power requirements that each of the arenas needed to meet well before the tour arrived in town. So once the equipment was set up and the concert got going, thousands of fans would be in close proximity to thousands of volts of electricity powering massive towers of amplifiers and the huge stage itself. If every one of the hundreds of lines of requests written into the contract wasn't followed to the letter, lives would be at risk. Enter the brown M&Ms. If the band arrived in their dressing room before the show and found brown M&Ms, or worse, no M&Ms, they knew they had problems. If a tour promoter had missed the brown M&Ms, then they likely had missed much more serious and potentially dangerous requirements. And the band's team would need to double check every piece of staging, every electrical circuit, and every light hanger before they could perform safely. It could take hours. It could delay the start of the concert. So written into the contract, Van Halen reserved the right to cancel the show at the expense of the promoter. And just to keep up appearances, when that happened, they might even trash the dressing room before packing everything up. That's the M&Ms. So, I'll get back to the M&Ms shortly, but I first wanted to thank you, class of 2017, for giving me the honor and opportunity to address you today. I can really only begin to guess the logic behind this decision. Austin, Wenchong, Chriselle, and Charlie were the only ones among you that I had the pleasure of teaching this school year. So I can only assume that when it came time to choose a commencement speaker, the rest of you missed hearing my voice and voted those four down. I tend to think that motivational speakers need to have a very obvious relationship with their audience in order to be effective. And to be honest, my high school and college experiences are far enough in my rearview mirror that any detailed suggestions that I could give you about filling out course registration cards or memorizing your friends' phone numbers or the best time for gaining access to the library microfiche would be out of date. That's a microfiche. It's for research. It makes small things big. Because I've only very recently developed anything approximating a career, attempting to follow the twisted path that I took to arrive here would be like trying to play mahjong on a whitewater river raft. Unstable and highly frustrating. So before we send you off into the world, I'll offer you some advice based on my own experience, which, as the saying goes, is what you get when you don't get what you want. And I think you're old enough that if you ask me later, I can tell you the stories about each of these. However, instead of using allusions to now obscure rock and roll icons, I'll communicate through a medium I know you understand. Backup one, that would be dank memes. So, realizing that you just spent the better part of a semester writing mission essays wherein you proclaimed that you know exactly what you want to do with your life, I'm here to give you permission not to have a dream, at least not right away. It's fine if you really don't yet know what you want to do, what you want your life to look like. I've always been an advocate of project-driven existence, of the relentless pursuit of medium-term goals. When I succeed, they give me an inflated sense of self-confidence. And when I fail, they allow me to fail quickly, at least. And then reflect on my errors, correct the mistakes, and move on to the next project. So, my advice to you would be to find things that are interesting to you and dig in. Be periodic in your passion. Be micro-ambitious. If you think about it, your college years are the one time in your life where your primary responsibility is to learn enough so they let you stay in a place where you really have very few other responsibilities. I mean, you do have to do your laundry, but get to work with your head down, but not so low that you don't see other shiny and interesting opportunities appearing in your peripheral vision. Next slide, please. One of those might just lead you to your next dream. If you've already got a dream, great. Now make a plan. If you've got a plan, fantastic. Now you're going to need some help, because one of the objective realities of life is that no one succeeds entirely on their own. I can attribute most of the good things in my life to my being two things. First is relatively competent, and the second is not a jerk. Relative competence, we'll stay with Pluto Blutarsky for a second here, which is a 70s reference, so we're even going farther back into it. Relative competence comes from identifying people who are more knowledgeable, more inventive, more skilled than you, and finding a way to work with them and then learn from them. Play above your level. Punch above your weight. Search out people whose interests complement your own, but without completely overlapping your own. And then collaborate. The most interesting things emerge at the intersection of two sets of ideas. You may end up creating a field of study, or a market solution, or a job title that doesn't even exist yet. Identify mentors and bosses who support your goals, who give critical feedback, and this one's really important, who find joy in your successes. They'll still be critical, but they're taking the time to examine and shape you because they want you to see you succeed. You guys experienced an example of this yesterday with Jeff over and over again, making you stand and sit and stand and sit. And I give you like a medium plus on that, by the way, today. All right, next slide, please. Slide. But how will I identify these people, you say? And that comes back to the brown M&Ms. In the same way that Van Halen can learn a lot about what to expect from a concert venue based on the presence or absence of a candy, you can tell a lot about people based on the effort they devote to getting the details right. While their values as a person, of course, is not related to their attention to detail, whether or not you decide to work with them is. Of course, the same is true of the ways you interact with the world. For the simple reason that they've taken time out of their day to read what you've written or listen to what you have to say, every audience is your most important audience. While I wish I could impart to you a world where you are instantly recognized for your expansive creativity, unequaled empathy, or unprecedented intellect, the reality is that you only get the chance to make a first impression one time. And spelling counts. Others have invented their own version of the brown M&Ms, and you would be wise to do the same. Next slide, please. And don't be a jerk. This is another 80s reference. You don't like working with jerks, so not surprisingly, neither does anyone else. No matter how smart, skilled, and or creative you are, if no one wants to work with you, your options will be severely limited. Beware the creeping jerk. At some point, the stresses of myriad responsibilities, unsatisfying compromises, and existential angst will reach a tipping point. It's at these times in particular that you'll need to stop, step back, and thoroughly examine your own prejudices, opinions, biases, and viewpoints. And if necessary, adjust them. Next one. You can break that. And most of you have already learned this one through various mishaps with your innumerable smart devices. But the physical world is not idiot-proof. Be gentle with the things that are important to you. Engage with them in an approved manner, and they will generally not disintegrate. And if you're reading into the careless destruction of your electronics as a stand-in for the fragility of interpersonal relationships, good job. You spotted the metaphor, and you make Mike, Heather, and Kate very proud. Next slide. So perhaps the biggest lesson that my collective experiences have taught me relates to the beauty of our finite existence. Even though I can expect to live about twice as long as my great-grandfather's great-grandfather, I too will soon grow old. Soon. And then I too will soon grow dead. Somewhat unfairly, the march of time seems to speed up the farther along the road of life I get. Just like they told me it would. And maybe this is already happening to you. Maybe it's not, but it will soon. Since you guys invited me to speak, I'll let you in on a little secret. I found a way to slow things down. Fill up your head with distinct memories. Travel. There's a theme here, we didn't talk about this before. But if you can't travel far, take a new route home every day. Go into a building you've never been into before, with permission, of course. And do what you can to vary your physical environment and avoid the efficiency of routine. Sometime. Share the experience with people you love. Share the ideas that are generated and let them influence your outlook. You'll have a lot to look back on when the time comes. In the meantime, I'll see you out there.
Our caffeine hunts leading us to Uptown, Demeter, Griffin Bay, Sweet Retreat, and the dorm for our flex time, coffee, hot chocolate, or Chatterfix. We've left footsteps together farther from campus, in the North Cascades, the Himalayas, the Camino de Santiago, the Southwest, and Guatemala. Before all these trails, though, our footsteps began in different places: Rwanda, China, New York, San Juan Island, Orcas Island, and Lopez Island. Since the beginning, each of us has forged our own route, yet they all brought us together here at Spring Street. While we have all overlapped, our paths have and will continue to be unique. Today, we are taking steps onto an uncertain section of trail. Each of our 22 feet will carry us in different directions, and that is wonderful. We each offer something distinct to this world. Path is defined as a way or track laid down for walking or made by continual treading. In this way, our paths are both the literal directions we move and places we go, but we also have internal paths, paths made by our thoughts, ideas, and dreams. On this threshold between past and future, take time to reflect. Take time to be in the now. We have spent all these years looking towards the next step, the next big thing. We're standing on the cusp of transition, and I hope we can all look towards it with excitement. As we move into this realm of more uncertainty, a chapter we've been dreaming of and planning for, let's draw on our past experiences. Let's pause and reflect on where we've been so we can carry that with us. There will come a time when our path is no longer found on the map. For some of us, this moment might be in the next few days, and for some, it might be years. But when it does come, reflection will allow us to recenter. Planning for the future so often revolves around nouns, careers, and titles, but I hope we can also think in adjectives. What will we be like, not just what we will be? Most of us probably had a childhood dream career, maybe two. I know I did. I remember being about 5, sitting in the back of our red minivan and telling my mom what I was going to be when I was a grown-up. I had it all figured out. On Mondays, I would be a vet. On Tuesdays, a gymnast. On Wednesdays, a farmer. On Thursdays, a mother. And on Fridays, a writer. I'd take the weekend to rest. None of those careers are still in my plan. And I've since realized that a different career each day might be too much. But the qualities, the adjectives 5-year-old me imagined in those careers, in those nouns, those are still a part of who I am today. Compassionate, athletic, nurturing, creative. So, as we think about what's next, it is equally important to explore the adjectives we want to use to describe ourselves. How will our generation be described? Will we be caring, generous, thoughtful, inspired, dedicated? In the future, we may be scientists, teachers, actors, businessmen, captains, horse trainers, poets, and more. These may be our titles, our nouns, but what will be the adjectives, the qualities that describe these nouns? When I first came to Spring Street, I was looking for rigorous academics. I wanted to challenge myself to get good grades so I could get into a good college and the cycle would continue. The problem was I was forgetting why I wanted to be in school, why I wanted to learn. At some point, I started to realize that the grades represent little if I'm not truly interested in the process that leads to them. In this way, a 20-mile walk is arduous if you spend the whole time calculating how much further. This is not to negate the destination. That 20 miles means a lot more when you rest at the end, giving foot massages, and looking back on what you've accomplished and how you got there. Like the massage after a trek, a grade is more significant if you can look back at what you've learned, having truly been curious and interested in the process. This is not to say I don't still get panicked about failing a test or dream of vacation during finals week. We can all continue to work to stay present in each moment and not just fixate on our destination. There have been times for all of us in these past 4 years of high school when it seemed like it was a daunting, never-ending marathon, filled with endless Monday mornings and late nights studying. But today, we will cross the line. Our feet have carried us here to this moment, up to this stage, and soon we will cross it to receive our diploma. We have reached a finish line. So, as we move on from our Spring Street paths, we will leave behind footsteps. If we reflect on them as we move, we will not only leave a physical path, but also develop our internal paths, finding strength in our dreams and inspirations. If we reflect as we move, then when we reach a Y in our trail and we're uncertain about which way to go, we can consider where we've come from, what we've learned, who we are, and who we want to become, and then choose a direction, and with enthusiasm, step onto a muddy section of trail, waiting for our fresh footsteps. Thank you.
Try boss ain't working it like this. He can't take care of you like this. Now you're lost in the heat of it all.怎么 via via 易碎的骄傲着，那也曾是我的模样，沸腾着不安着的，你要去哪 via via 谜样的to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps shitting on us endlessly. Essentially, they tax us relentlessly. And King George turns around and a spending spree. He ain't never gonna set his descendants free, so there will be a
北京，北京，北京河，不送，哦，116，
什么他妈这那都歇逼吧，好吧，适合那点事儿干不来，能不能干点大的？那些虚的假的，在我们这儿真不好使。让你看看怎么用好我们手里这把尺子，三个臭皮匠是怎么办的诸葛亮。真不光靠你那脑子，还得看你们有没有胆量。这地方培养了多少横着膀子走路的，怎么最后就那么几个能把名字给玩响了？
Everybody else doing, just 'cause everybody doing what they all do. If one thing I know, I'm forward, I grow. I'm walking down this road of mine, this road that I go home. So am I wrong for thinking that we could be so? needs to run. You've seen it all before, and you've knocked on all the doors, but tomorrow is a funny looking one. Oh, everything is about to change, but I say, bring it closer to me. Oh, it's coming soon, like the spinning of the moon. In truth, it is already happening. Think back to the start, when we sang with all our hearts, and the darkness wasn't even bothering. Oh, everything is about to change, but I say, bring it closer to me. Bring the storm and the blows, and everything it knows, and I say, bring it closer to me.
Si j'avais su, avant de quitter, que les années simples, ça n'existe pas. Si j'avais su, ce n'est pas tous les jours que l'on baptise la marquise de la bière. Si j'avais su.
Wenchum, if you can stand for a moment. There's a saying in French, it's called comme ci, comme ça. Which means a little of this, a little of that. If you take that down a little bit, there's a saying in French that just si, ça. There's no comme, just no comme ci, comme ça, just si, ça. There's a possible combination of both the French and the Anglo-Saxon. And in French, si means a saw. And the Anglo-Saxon word for si is saw. And there you go, and you get the word seesaw. My word for Wenchum is seesaw. Wenchum, I don't believe, sees himself on a seesaw, but I do. And let me try and explain. Wenchum is an amazing friend to his friends. In particular in the dorm, he stays up late helping them do their work. But then on the other side of the seesaw, he often doesn't do his own. On one hand, Wenchum is one of the most kind and generous young men I know. And yet at other times, I'll be honest, I'm going to be honest up here, I find him frustrating beyond belief. He appears disengaged in class sometimes with me, and yet when I ask him the right question phrased in the right way, I understand the deep understanding he has. A few years ago, I needed to suspend Wenchum just to take a little time away from school to do some self-reflection on his behavior. And with home too far away, he stayed with me for the week. I'm not sure whose idea that was. I don't think it was mine or Wenchum's. And in truth, Wenchum was a wonderful guest, appreciative of the food, and he was kind and helpful. And it was a really good week. Exasperating and hopeful, unchangeable, and yet clearly maturing every year. I see the seesaw is my metaphor for Wenchum, because that's how I perceive him. But it's a little bit like Schrodinger's cat, in that when Wen Chung is on this side of the seesaw, and he's got me frustrated, and I go to grab him there, magically he pops up on the other side and is absolutely the antithesis of what I saw. And in some way, you seem to exist in both simultaneously, and yet when I go to one, that disappears and the other reality happens. My advice, my hope for you in time, Wen Chung, is that you find greater balance in your seesaw of life. Thank you.
My brain went crazy on fire when I started thinking about the word for Beatrice: academic, inquisitive, energetic, verbal, driven, fast, relentless, motivated, multifaceted, quick, smart, articulate, enthusiastic, and on and on and on and on. And then I laughed at myself for how rapidly the words were coming to me, because Beatrice communicates rapidly. In fact, she's the only person I know here in Friday Harbor who can converse as quickly as Louie's twin sister, Toby. Okay. No. But anyway, after I caught my breath, I received an inspiration. The word is keen. Keen means having or showing eagerness or enthusiasm. And it also means sharp or penetrating. Both of these definitions apply. I love your enthusiasm, Beatrice. It's genuine and exciting, and it's a powerful force. One that makes you an academic powerhouse. You burn with unquenchable fire for learning, and this fire is essential to who you are. Your keen nature, it will continue to fuel your scientific inquiry, as well as your athleticism and your work in the theater. Your razor-sharp intellect is something you generously utilize, and it will continue to serve you and the world, because you're possessed with an energy and drive that most people can only wish for. And I look forward to hearing about how your keen nature manifests in the years to come. Stay keen, friend. It's a beautiful quality.
Charlie, my word for you is subtle. I won't make any of us spell it. It's defined as a distinction that's so delicate or precise as to be difficult to analyze or describe. Charlie, the first year he started with us, he wasn't really going to be here for long. Right? We're going to LA, we had plans. But then his second year, because he came back to us, thank goodness, he, I think it was your first quarter conference. I forget what happened. Somebody was supposed to translate, but they didn't show up, or they were in another room. And so, you know, if you've ever seen our international conferences, it's sort of like this. It's, you know, circus. And so you got teachers coming in, we're trying to talk, and kids are translating, and there's a lot of pressure, and blah, blah, blah. And, well, he didn't have a translator. And so we just started talking in English, and lo and behold, Charlie Lee understood every word we said in English, and translated every word we said in English to Chinese. And I thought, you sly, bleepity bleep bleep. Charlie possesses a very agile mind, but he doesn't ever want anybody to know this. Maybe your friends. Not your teachers, that's for sure. And he has a way of connecting to people in a sort of subterranean way, underground. And there are many, many times, I could bore you with more stories, where when I could get him to clue in, when I could get him to do what we wanted to do or to help in some situation, I don't know how he did it, but magically, things would work. Subtly, they would work. So you didn't ask for advice, but I'm going to tell you this, Charlie. Subtlety's fine, but don't let anybody be afraid to see who you really are. But you can really do. Thanks.
Okay, Gemma. So at first I had a tough time coming up with a word I thought I should offer as an expression of some essential part of your character. There was grit, which you definitely have in abundant amounts. Determination, perseverance came to mind. And then once I stopped trying so hard to think of the perfect word, something came to me. Patient. Now, this is not to say that Gemma's not stubborn. Those of us who know her well know well how stubborn she can be. But being stubborn does not negate being patient. One of the things I admire most in Gemma is her patience. As a learner, Gemma knows herself. Primarily kinesthetic, Gemma has found ways to study that afford her success. When she was studying psychology, she told me that she has discovered she has to write it out and write it again and again and again, and then talk about it a lot until she truly knows it. She said, and I quote, "I have to relax and be patient and just enjoy the process." Gemma's patient with herself and with others. She's a gentle and subtle teacher. I've watched her help others who are struggling, be it with academic material or social tension. Seemingly effortlessly, Gemma will talk and smile and reassure someone who's stressed. And within minutes, that person is more relaxed and therefore more open to learning. This is a gift. Gemma uses this gift almost daily with horses. Her patience serves her well, and she's able to help those who have experienced past trauma learn to trust and collaborate with her. Gemma works with horses with natural beauty and grace. I know she realizes that she has this gift with horses, but I hope you know, Gemma, you have it with people. Thanks for your patience with us, Gemma.
I know you probably don't know what it means, so I wrote it down for you. It means aware of and attentive to responsibilities. My word for you is heedful. I know you probably don't know what it means, so I wrote it down for you. It means aware of and attentive to responsibilities and danger, mindful, careful. In our world today, it is the risk-takers who are often hailed, the adventurers and inventors of our technological world. However, taking risks involves unforeseen consequences. Today, some of these consequences can be seen in chemical pollution, global warming, endangered species. Maybe it's time we pay a little more attention to the heedful, those who analyze all the dangers and risks before taking action. Ssis is one of these, ever in the background observing, scrutinizing, and judging before he acts. In the classroom, Ssis is reluctant to speak up for fear of giving a wrong answer or pronouncing the words incorrectly. However, I know that Ssis is listening and observing, because when called upon, he often has insightful responses. On the Northwest trip, it was Ssis who would think about saving a slice of watermelon for someone who hadn't had any yet, or bringing someone else their water bottle, or giving a massage to sore shoulders. Ssis was not the first to rappel off the cliff, but once he had determined that it was something he could and should do, he did it twice. While climbing, when stumped on where to go next, Ssis would come down, watch others try to tackle the same problem, and then try again later. So I'm truly confident in your ability, Ssis, to determine the right course of action, taking all possibilities into account before moving forward decisively, compassionately, and with courage. Best wishes on your next journey.
Tomasiev. word for you is exuberant. It means filled with or characterized by lively energy and excitement. So none of you are hanging around Tom, I think, because he'll leave us here soon. But if you ever want to get him to move, play some music. He cannot stay still. And if you're lucky, he's got a really good voice. He'll sing if he knows the song. Most of the time involuntarily. He doesn't necessarily need to do that. My sister-in-law, many moons ago, said about Ava and her youngest, who's almost the same age as Ava, that those two are always on the look. They're always on the hunt for a party. That's how she described Ava and Bruin. And Tom is on the same hunt. He's part of that tribe. There's a Mark Twain quote that said something like, "I never let school interfere with my education." And Tom always finds the fun, always finds the energy. And I don't mean he doesn't learn, he just doesn't do it in the boring way that Jeff wants to do it. There's an energy and a passion that you have that can never go away. Don't ever let it. Thank you, Tom.
Fred, come on.
I'm going to start this in a somewhat unorthodox manner, because I had it on because I want to play a short clip of something, and who I'm speaking about will know to stand up. Whether you know it or not, Austin and his family just performed the miracle of the halibut and the king salmon for the faculty. Out of their kind generosity, the Foster family has shared a great haul of flash frozen fish with all the faculty. So reminder to faculty, pick up your fish before I have the honor of speaking about you, Austin, and my word for you is steadfast. It means resolutely or dutifully firm and unwavering. And I've worked with this young man as an instructor in the high school course a year ago called Writing for Film. And I've worked with him last year as an intern advisor. And my experience is that Austin leaves no stone unturned in his pursuit of knowledge, his desire to complete a task, and his attention to detail. Austin was a member of the student team in that Writing for Film class that produced our first school student doc film called 54,900, which, if you want to know, means the number of seconds in a Spring Street day. His internships with the county fire department last year, and this year with a tugboat company working primarily in Alaska, displayed the maturity and focus that are hallmarks of his work. Many of you know he will attend a maritime school this fall, leading towards the long-term goal of becoming a merchant captain. Did I say that right? Okay. Merchant captains handle ships. As a ship handler, he will be responsible for the steadfast course of any vessel he commands. In a world where Austin is the captain of the ship that I board, I will trust his leadership and competence unwaveringly.
Krista.
One of my first memories of Madrona is from the year I started teaching theater at SSIS 3 years ago. I came to school on my birthday, very early in the school year, nervous and feeling not yet accepted. And as I entered the quad, not having told anyone it was my birthday, a spirited round of birthday song was led by Madrona. I was grateful for that affirmation. Embarrassed, but slightly thankful. I mean, secretly thankful. Hugely secretly thankful. That small act made me feel accepted. I saw in those first days a bubbling and gleeful girl, amenable, warm-hearted, friendly. However, following the footsteps of a beloved teacher, when my program took a sharp turn from hers, I started to feel a mutiny brewing in my class. And during an unmemorable theater game, I was trying to persuade the class to accept my challenge. I was surprised when this effusive, happy-go-lucky student joined the mob to take up arms against me. Of course, it was not nearly that dramatic. And the class and I survived that little trial. But I knew then that Madrona was not merely the whimsical, carefree persona that she presented. There was something deeper. I recently watched her perform a song she'd written, and after directing her in 6 shows, 3 years of teaching, I saw that night a completely different Madrona. There is something deep indeed. This last month, I scoured the world of words for the right and perfect word for you, Madrona. Trekking in the vast red slip rock canyons of the Southwest, thinking about your character. Gazing up into side canyon after side canyon, knowing they each held so many mysteries and hidden treasures of ancient peoples, flora and fauna, geology and gems. There and real, and yet just out of reach. Unseen. I thought of your composure and beauty, inside and out, subtle and deep. Your kindness and openness, your containment. I remembered you leading spirit rallies and emceeing thriller events, oozing fake blood from latex sores. I thought of your quiet presence in class. And I thought about geomes and how they present one thing at first glance, and then, when unlocked, broken open, a whole new multifaceted world of edges and shape and color and density, raw and beautiful, open to you. You are like a geode. Finding one word that encompasses any person is hard. Finding a word to encompass a person whose passion is chameleon in nature, multifaceted and inconstant, is harder still. Like the canyons of the Colorado Plateau and the roots of her namesake, Madrona goes deep. Different facets of her character coming up when needed or called. Discovered, like buried treasure when she writes poetry or composes a song and sings. Or when polished and presented as characters in a play from Alcyone to Napoleon. Madrona, you are a gem. Precious, multifaceted. And we all at Spring Street School have felt your presence deeply. And so my word for you, our word for you, is depth.
Thank you, Krista. Jeff?
So we'll find out if this is true next spring, but Alistair's made 4 out of 5 spring trips with me. Yeah, so next spring, she may call me because that's what happened. No. So Alistair and me. conference when Kate said to get a tattoo was her advice for the teacher, but that would really probably help. Having traveled with Alifair and taught her, I don't know how many classes, I had her and Madrona as little tiny 7th graders, maybe it was B2, Jen was in her class, I think. Anyway, it's been 6 years? Wow. 7. Oh my gosh. What was Tim talking about? Time going faster, I think? My word for Alifair is steadfast, not because Fred and I think alike, but we do. And the definition I have for her is resolutely firm or unwavering. And I'll give you one story from the Camino. Julie and I, in our wisdom, thought, well, we're close to Santiago, let's just push through for the last day to Santiago. This is about a week and a half ago. And what was supposed to be a 24-mile day turned into 30 miles, I think, if I remember right. Guidebooks lie, in case you're not sure about that. So we stumble in, we got blisters all over the place, everybody's pretty trashed. We're excited for the 20 minutes you're in front of the cathedral. And then reality hits, right? You gotta find a place to stay, everybody's starving. And so we head back out of the cathedral. We have an albergue, we know where we're going. We get there, and the only Spanish word I learned this year was completo. Completo means full. So we get out the guidebook, and I don't speak Spanish, but I have a couple of very good Spanish speakers, and hand the guidebook to Alifair and say, let's call this one. So she does, and in her amazingly, pretty incredible ability to translate while I'm whispering in her ear and she's hearing somebody else with a different language, we give a credit card number, and it's only, 1.5 kilometers away. Which Galen about had a conniption fit about because he wanted to find one closer, but it's 7 o'clock now, so here we go. And we get to the craziest, looniest, funkiest albergue I've ever seen in 2 trips to the Camino. Won't bother you, it was insane. We take a shower, get our stuff together, and then it's, okay, we gotta find someplace to eat. Because everybody's starving 30 miles later, right? And they tell us to go up the steps, I think, if I remember right. She said it in Spanish, but I got the steps part. So up we go, and we find a guy who runs a cafe. And in Spain, there's sort of these bars that are cafes or bars, depending on the time of day. And then there might be a restaurant, what you and I would consider a restaurant here in America, in the back. Maybe not, but there sometimes is. And we were, God help us, hoping there was. And this guy that comes out is crazier than the lady at the albergue. Tanner's not sure if he was a guy. After 30 miles, who knows. But he says something to them. Madrona's helping, but Alifair's my primary negotiator. He says something to them like, well, you can only order 4 of everything off the Pilgrim menu or whatever, right? And these menus are like this piece of paper. I mean, it was just insane. And Alifair keeps looking at me like, Jeff, let's find a different place. This guy is nuts, right? And I keep giving her that look like, we got 13 hungry mouths besides you me, and we got to eat here, right? And so, they went to a different part of the restaurant, had a conference with this guy. It was, Madrona was there too, it was insane. Longer story, we get fed. Eventually we get food in these people. And everybody goes back to the crazy albergue, and we're so tired it doesn't matter, we just collapse, because 30 miles. There's time after time after time, whether it's in the classroom or on the trail. This is who Alifair is. What do you need? What can I do? Like, you get that shrug, but then by God, she's going to do it. Keep it up. Call me next spring.
Christelle. So I've never done this quite this way before, but Christelle, hope and light. Hope is the feeling that something good will happen, and the trust that it will in fact occur. And light. Light's about illumination, making things visible, and also understanding a problem or a mystery. I think the best way for me to express what I want to say is simply to read the recommendation letter I wrote for you when she was applying to, what, 50 colleges? 12 at the time? To whom it may concern. Christelle Anema came to our school from Rwanda nearly 2 years ago. This young woman has more courage than anyone I know. At 15, she left her family, her community, and her country. She boarded an airplane. That airplane landed in Seattle, and then Christelle was transported by a van and then ferry to Spring Street International School on San Juan Island. She has traveled a long way to be with us. Since she arrived, Christelle has helped us to come a long way. I'm a better teacher for having known her. We are a better school for having been educated by her. Her intelligence, humor, and light, they illuminate our small world. Christelle is a dedicated academic with disciplined study habits. Her work in AP psychology demonstrates her intellectual and academic capacity. Working in her third language after Kinyarwanda and French, Christelle mastered the massive content of the course load in English, and with considerable aplomb, as evidenced by her score of 4 on the AP psychology exam. It was during this class that I began to know her. Christelle seeks to challenge herself not only academically, but also physically, socially, and emotionally. She has served on our school's Global Council, participated in our annual backpacking trips, our expedition to the Grand Canyon in Zion, and in Girls on Ice, Alaska, a national wilderness science education program for high school girls. This young woman is serious about pushing her own limits and about helping others. On a regular basis, Christelle asks me how I'm doing. This is unusual in that most adolescents are focused on themselves and rarely think to ask how the old folks are feeling. Christelle asks, and she truly wants to know. When working with her on her college application essays, I learned many new things about her. The most important being how she has experienced firsthand what it's like to work in a refugee camp, to feel helpless, to persevere, and to come up with a way to give hope. Christelle cries for the children she worked with in the Burundian refugee camp, and yet she also has humor about her work. Humor expressed in how she describes the kids playing with a soccer ball made of banana leaves, and how the teens listen to the radio and dance as all kids dance. She jokes with me that her writing style has been influenced by the books we've read in English class, and that sometimes her writing sounds like Palinukes in his novel Fight Club. Her writing is much more hopeful than that of Fight Club, but I like the metaphor. Christelle wants a college education so she can return to her community and fight for what she believes in, with the ammunition of a more honed knowledge and practical skill, and more love. Christelle is a hopeful light for any community of which she is a part. May she grace yours.
We have one left. Eliza. You know what your word is? The word I've chosen for Eliza is half full. Madrona's half empty. But, you know, Krista wasn't going to go with that. So, Eliza, this is not a surprise to Eliza. One, I texted Madrona this morning and was asking about it. And we talked about it maybe 6-8 weeks ago. And I think half full is great, not to imply that she's not full, but that her perspective on life, it's never the half-empty glass. It's always the half-full glass. There is an optimism that you embody in your smile, in your eyes, in your mind, in your body language, that just speaks to possibilities. It is one of your greatest strengths. And let me tell a story that you well know, but maybe the audience doesn't. I taught Eliza this year, but I got to know her a little bit last year. And we were traveling in India, and we'd been there a few days, and several things had gone wrong already. Several people were quite sick and ill, and heat exhaustion, and the normal stuff that happens the first week in India, especially when you're in the hot area. And we were on a train to Agra to see the Taj Mahal. And we got off. I asked someone, oh, is Agra next? And an Indian gentleman, and he said, oh yeah, Agra's next. And then Peter turned to someone next to him and said, is Agra next? And he said, oh yeah, Agra's next. And so, you know, two independent confirmations that Agra was next, so Agra must be next. And Agra wasn't next, but the train stopped, and you know, there's some stuff in Hindi which I can't read, and I think I did actually see something say Agra. It actually wasn't Agra, it was probably like Agra North, or Agra, you know, not the real Agra. Agra is another, you know, 15, 20 minutes away, or perhaps longer. But the train in India was quite crowded, and so I said, okay, everybody, let's go off. And I headed off, and part of our group decided to head out the other door. It was the first mistake. But given the crowded nature of the train, it made sense. And I'm out on the platform, and I knock on the window, because part of our group is in a different car. And Sharon's there, and I said, Sharon, come on, it's Agra. And she gives me that look. This is not Agra. and she's sitting next to someone who has a different opinion than the first two guys, and he's certainly much more reputable than our two guys. And the look is clear, so I think, oh great. So I hop back on the train, and you know, I think there's one person behind me, so we're all back on, and I get on the train, and of course, there's a bunch of folks who went out the other door. Which, though, we quickly realized and raced to the back door, and the train starts. And this has a happy ending, because Eliza's still here, and so is everybody else. But the trains, which move so incredibly slow in India, for once seem to accelerate very, very quickly. And Peter dropped, no, he may have had his backpack, or maybe he dropped it. He jumps off the train. We need someone who's something like an adult, at least on the platform. And kids start running for the train. This, in hindsight, is not a very good idea, but you know, it's in the moment. And we pull one on the train, and we pull two on the train, and then the train is truly accelerating now. And now comes Eliza, and she's got a backpack on the front, and she's got a small backpack on the a backpack on the back, and then a small one on the front, the day pack. So she's not running super fast, or I mean, she's agile normally, but that's a challenge for anybody. And I'm holding on to the bar, and I reach my arm out, and I think I say something like, "Do you got this, Eliza?" And there's that half full. It may have been better to be half empty at that point. But she's half full, and she says, her eyes are big, and she says, what do you say? You didn't say anything. I swear she said I got it. But her eyes said it, and I grab her arm, she grabs my arm, and we pull it up. And that's the period where time, if you ever had those moments, time just slows down. And one of her legs makes it on the train, and the other leg doesn't, and it swings, and then she's on the train, and then time speeds up immediately. There are guys yelling at us. Someone pulls the emergency brake. They're telling us, are we stupid? Are we dumb? When this happens, you pull the brake. Never would have thought of that. And so now you know sort of my story and my connection with Eliza. And although that almost got you into trouble, it didn't. And your optimism, you're always seeing the opportunity, is such a wonderful quality that you've shared with us. And I hope you continue to share it in the future. Thank you. So that's all our words for this wonderful class of 2017. We have a a few scholarships that I and others will be giving out. Before I do that, though, I just want to share that in this process, some of them apply to one school early decision and get accepted. Others are applying to 10, 15, I'm not sure what the most was.
21.
What's that?
21.
21. And would that be UB? Yeah, UB. And then they come in, and then there's this whole financial aid package, which is a combination of both financial aid and merit award, or scholarship and merit award. And then we sit down with them and we try and figure, what makes the most sense for each individual. This group was offered a collective sum of about $1.7 million in order to go off to college. Talking with Caroline earlier, truly what we should figure out is sort of the opposite of that, how much they have to pay, which is really what matters to them. But, so that's on the whole college level, but there are also a number of local scholarships that they applied for. Scholarships for our kids on Orcas won't be out until next week, so they're waiting on that. But is Laura Curry here from the San Juan Island Community Foundation? Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, students, parents, teachers, and community members. I'm Carrie M. Pinko, the Executive Director of the San Juan Island Community Foundation. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. At the Foundation, one of the most important and gratifying services we provide for our community is our scholarship programs. These scholarships literally change the lives of our students and their families. Many people wonder where the scholarship funds come from. 100% of the funds come from you and your neighbors. On behalf of the Foundation, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to grant scholarships. It's such an honor. It's an honor because we all try to help each other in big ways and in small. We reach outside of ourselves because that somehow seems like the right thing to do. And in that reaching, we all find a new kind of fulfillment. That sense of helping others seems to be innate in the human makeup. And in no place that I've ever lived have I seen so many expressions of that sense of giving. I have been told by countless people that there is no one individual who has greater sense of personal giving than that of the late Jerry Inskeep. The Foundation is privileged to host the Inskeep Legacy Scholarship Fund. This fund was established through a generous gift from the estate of Jerry Inskeep, a longtime San Juan Island resident. His bequest was a donation to the Foundation to support an ongoing scholarship program that would provide college funding for graduating high school students on San Juan Island based on financial need. Today, on behalf of the Foundation and Jerry Inskeep, I am proud to present an Inskeep Legacy Scholarship to Beatrice Grauman-Voss.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Community Foundation. That means a lot. Thank you. I think we have a representative from the Island Artisans here. Yes? Oh, there we go. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Kelly, and I'm on the board of Island Artisans. And Island Artisans is in its 39th year of providing scholarships to young artists in the county. Our funds come from the annual holiday marketplace that happens every year at elementary school right after Thanksgiving. We encourage all students who are seniors who have an interest and passion in any type of art to apply. It's not just visual art. This year's recipient from Spring Street School is a very talented woman who I have had the pleasure to act with many years ago in Island Stage Left's Midsummer Night's Dream, where she played a cute little fairy, and I was the mama fairy. Since then, I have seen her grow as an incredible person and actor. I hope this award will help her in her pursuits at Bennington College. I am happy and honored to present this award to Madrona.
Thank you, Shannon. So there's another envelope. It doesn't have my name on it. It has B's name on it. But B, I had to open it up because I can't tell you what's inside. Just say, hey, here's the envelope. So I'm going to read from it. It's good news, though. I'm speaking for Travis Ayers from LaSalle. Dear B, I am pleased to inform you of your selection to receive a one-time LaSalle scholarship in the amount of $1,000 towards tuition at Wellesley College. Congratulations. Heather was saying, you can't open up the envelope. I was like, I gotta open the envelope. And now we come to the important moment that these 11 young men and women have been waiting for. When I say your name, please rise and accept your diploma. Wen Chung Chen. Eliza Hope Anderson, Diepenbrock, magna cum laude and valedictorian. Beatrice Cecile Grauman Boss, magna cum laude and salutatorian. Austin Kendall Foster. Me too. Christelle Inema, cum laude. Madrona Loon Jameson, cum laude. Chang Yuan Charlie Lee. Noreen. Gemma Sage Richard. Goronjang Tom. No, not quite done yet. We've got one more to go. And finally, but not least, Zichi Zhao. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Spring Street International School class of 2017.